keep God first, like seek God first, seek after him, because he is faithful, and and don't, and it's hard, like that's a hard thing to say, because a lot of times it's like you don't want to, you're not seeking God for what he can give you, but like if you genuinely seek after him and after his will for your life, I promise, like he's going to come through. Like I've never seen him fail me, like never, not a single time. Anytime I've anything I prayed for, and I'm not saying that he's going to give us everything or give you everything that you want, but he for sure will come through with what you need and some.
Hello, everyone. This is Tim Brown, author of the book Uncommon Athletes. And I'm just excited to have with me today a truly uncommon athlete, a young lady who's come a mighty long way. Her journey began at Pickerington. First off, she was born and raised in New York, and then the family relocated to Pickerington, Ohio. So, Tianna, before we get started, tell us about that transition from New York to Columbus, Ohio. I know that had to be something different.
Yeah, that was a tough transition.
Yeah.
That was hard. My family, we always talk about this story. The we just moved into the house. So my parents actually, my mom and myself, we came up first, and we stayed in a hotel, and we were looking at different houses. And then my dad and my brothers came up later and brought up everything else. So when we finally picked the house, we were all back together finally, in the house, and we're unpacking, and everybody's like, you want pizza for dinner? I'm like, yeah, like let's just get some pizza. So that we're looking, and we're like, Donato's. We're like, Donato sounds Italian, like it sounds like it should be all right. Uh, so we get Donato's, and if you're from Ohio, like like the Donato's, it was like the little square cuts, and I picked it up and I ate it, and I was like, "What is this? Like this is not pizza." So I was so mad. I was so mad. So I stormed off and went up to my room and went to sleep, and I didn't eat dinner that night. So it was a really really tough transition. One, just like food. Number one, culture is drastically different, and then just like the independence I had as a child, in New York. We were 8, 10, 11 years old walking to the store by ourselves, like no parents, no guardians, and that's not happening in Pickerington. Like you're not walking anywhere.
Right.
You can barely bike somewhere. Like so, it was really tough, not being able to just live like the life I was used to living, and leaving friends behind. But ultimately, that was probably the best move that could have happened to me basketball wise, for sure.
Yeah. Well, great. Yeah, you've had quite a journey. I didn't officially formally introduce you, as this is Tianni Kelly, the head women's basketball coach at the University of Charleston, just off a NCAA Sweet 16 appearance, league champs and whatnot. But Tianni has a great experience, played in Pickerington, and I says we'll talk about that a little later, but then went to University of Charleston as a scholarship athlete. Played there, then was a grad assistant, then went on to Florida Southern College, had great success there. Was named the under 30, one of the rising stars under 30 by the Women's Basketball Coaches Association while she was there. And from there, she went to Valdosta State, was assistant coach there. And then actually got the call back to come back to our alma mater. How was that call when you first got that call? How was that?
It was surreal, because I didn't, I applied, didn't unwillingly, to be honest. I applied unwillingly. Somebody talked me into it, to be honest. And so when I got the initial call for initial email saying that they were going to interview me, I thought, this is them being nice. I'm an alumni, so they're being nice. They're going to interview me. Then I went through the interview, and I'm like, I'm glad they were nice about it. And then when she called me and she's like, we actually want to offer you the position, like, I was like, oh, what? Really? Like, I was, really shocked. Just my youth, inexperience, but they took a chance on me, and so yeah, I'm really appreciative that they did that.
Yeah, obviously they made a great choice. In your first year, you were coach of the year in the conference. You guys were conference champs. made it to the Sweet 16 NCAA Division II, and just had a great
Elite Eight,
first season.
actually.
Elite Eight. Oh wow, Elite Eight. Yeah, had a great run there. Had a great run. When did you find your passion for basketball? In the book, I talk about passion a lot and how important that is. And when did you find your passion for basketball?
Um, Really young, actually. So I have three brothers. I don't have any sisters. And so as far as like, you know, having people to play with, like all I had to play with is boys, and my brothers weren't going to play with my Barbies. So so I learned to like what they like and do what they do. And so when I think we moved, it was right when we moved to Long Island, Baldwin, Long Island. Our neighbors across the street, they gave us one of their hoop. And so we had the hoop in the backyard, and my brothers would go out and play. And so I went out there with them. And it was the one thing that I could like beat my brothers at. I couldn't
Don't
beat
tell
them at
him
video
that.
games.
Don't tell him that.
Yeah, right. Couldn't beat them at video games. Every time we play a video game, I take an L, unless it's Rock Band or Guitar Hero or something like that. But couldn't beat them in some of these other stuff like Monopoly. I'm always losing. Like all these other games, I couldn't beat them. But basketball was the one thing I could beat them at. And I took pride in that. It made me happy. And then I started playing with, some kids in the neighborhood and was able to beat kids in the neighborhood. So I'm like, I'm not bad at this. I'm pretty good at this. And so, it started there and kind of just snowballed. Like I continued to just grow and develop, and, playing with friends, playing with my brothers. It was also like a bonding thing. I know my dad took us to the high school a couple times, and he would teach me how to make a proper layup and do some things that I didn't know how to do at that age. And I think him investing that time in me and being able to play with my brothers really sparked a passion, because it was like something that brought us all together. And so I really enjoyed it from a young age, and I think that was where it started.
Wow. Now you had the opportunity to play for a legendary coach here in Pickerington, Ohio, Dave Butcher. What was that experience like playing for him?
Crazy. He's a great guy. It's funny, like I'm actually, he's at Reynoldsburg as the assistant now. And I'm recruiting a kid from that area. And so talking to her, I'm like, how is he? Like, is he calm? Does he yell a lot? What's he doing? And she's like, oh, he's so nice. He's so calm. And I'm like, what? What happened? Like, and I'm like, man, that man was a fireball. But he held us accountable. And he expected excellence every time. And it was no mercy. Like there was no excuse. There's no mercy. It's like, this is how we operate, and this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to get it done. And you're either going to do it or you're going to sit down. And I appreciate that and needed that, especially at that age, just needing that structure, and that hard nosed, this is how we're going to play. Like, we're going to grind it out. We're going to play hard. Some of the worst conditioning days I had were in high school. And it's crazy. Like, I feel bad because there's a lot of kids that don't necessarily get that mentoring and the tutelage that I got. But he was phenomenal X's and O's. Without a doubt, X's and O's taught me so much. From that standpoint, it gave me a great foundation, but just the work ethic and the demand of excellence consistently was huge for me.
Amen. That's good. Yeah, Dave, Coach Butcher, he's a legend. He's a legend. He's been around this game a long time. I see your sign back there, Faith. I see that placard, but I know Faith has been an important part of your life. Can you talk about how faith has influenced you in your basketball journey, the role that your faith has played in your journey?
Yeah, so I'm a pastor's kid, so I grew up in the church my entire life. I don't know that I can't. Like, most of my memories are from being in the church. So it's always been a part of me, always been a part of our family. But I, if I'm being completely honest, I didn't really make it my own until after I graduated, after I finished my master's. That was when I really decided to focus on my relationship with God, and kind of just pursue him and seek after him. And so when I did that, I feel like that was when everything changed for me, career-wise, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, especially my career, once I just kind of focused on him. So I can't necessarily explain how, but I know that my faith has kept me strong, has kept me focused, has kept me out of a lot of trouble, I'm sure. But it like without it, for me, especially in this season and this year and during COVID and first time head coach, COVID season, all of those things, like, had it not been for my faith, had it not been for God and his grace and his mercy, like, I don't know that, I know for a fact I wouldn't have had the success that I had. That's no doubt, but I also don't know that I would have been able to withstand this year. Like, it was extremely challenging and often question, like, why am I here? What am I doing? I don't need, like, I shouldn't be here. And I really had to buckle down and get back to the basics of, like, seek God first, like, seek him first, seek him first, seek him first. And when I started doing that, everything started to fall in place.
That's powerful. I know the Bible says this: seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. And then the back end of that says all things will be added onto you. And God has truly blessed you with, and still blessing you with all those things, as you continue to seek him first and put him first. Speaking of your basketball journey, you've gone full circle from a player, grad assistant at University of Charleston, and now head women's basketball coach. So you can talk about your journey, your path to get to this point in your career.
Yeah, so like you said, I played here, I had 5 years here. I redshirted due to injury, so played here for 5 years, and then after, like, and I was, originally I was going to go to law school. I wasn't even going to be a coach. So originally I was going to go to law school. So I took the LSAT, did decent on the LSAT, got into a couple of schools, but I didn't get into the school that I wanted to. So I was like, okay, well, I'll just retake it, and then try and go from there. And as I'm, like, studying to retake this, I'm like, I don't really want to go to law school. Like, I know it was something that I should have done, and something my parents and I talked about, but it wasn't something that I was 100% sold on. So I didn't want to continue to study and put myself through that, and not knowing that's what I wanted to do or not. So I talked to my coach, and I was like, is there any grad assistant positions anywhere that you can help me get involved in? I know that I don't want to go to law school, but I do want to get my master's and try to continue my education. And honestly, during that time, I was like, okay, I'm going to get my master's and train during those 2 years, and then try to go overseas somewhere and play. And so I was involved in a couple of interviews, got turned down. And so after that, I was just like, okay, well, don't know what to do. So my coach said, well, why don't you just come back here, coach with me for the year, volunteer for the year. And then we can try and get you a grad assistant position after. And so for me, I didn't want to take a year off of school. So I figured if I took a year off, I probably wouldn't go back. So I decided to pay for my master's myself, and volunteer while I did that. So my first year, I volunteered for him, and we had a pretty good year. I think that we split the regular season conference that year. Then the second year, I was part-time, and while I was finishing my master's, I was part-time. And then my third year, I was full-time, and I was in that top assistant spot. And then from there, I left because I had been in Charleston for 8 years. And I was like, I'm tired of being in Charleston. I need to get up out of here. So I left and went to another Division II at Florida Southern College, down in Lakeland, Florida. Coached with Betsy Harris, who's a phenomenal coach. We had a great 2 years while I was there. I think our record was like 55-9 or something like that. Went to the Sweet 16, to back-to-back conference, regular season conference champions, conference tournament champions. So a pretty great run while I was there. And then I made a friend in the business, networking. So she was the assistant at Eckerd at the time that I was the assistant at Florida Southern, and she got the job at Valdosta State, which was huge for her. So now she had asked me if I would, help her out, help her, come with her and try to build up that program there. And for me, it's like, okay, it's a lateral move, so I wasn't really sure, but I thought, it would be a great experience to build something, help her build something from scratch. So being able to see like what that takeover process looks like, and being involved in that takeover process. And then also it was a lot closer to my nephews who are like my world. So being able to be close to them and spend time with them, and continue to grow and develop. And they, but also offered some other benefits that Florida Southern didn't have. So it was just a good opportunity. So I took it, and then I got a phone call from my former coach who was here a couple of years ago, and he's like, the job's open, and I'm like, okay, good. Good to know. Thanks. He's like, you're gonna apply, and I'm like, no, I'm not actually. And he's like, well, why not? Like, well, I'm not qualified, no experience, and I don't even know if I really want to be a head coach. And at that time, I really didn't. I was actually thinking about like being in the business like 3 years and then getting out and working on my PhD. And so he's like, well, you're never going to know if you want to be a head coach if you don't try it. And you're never going to know, like, he's like, you at least got to put your name in the hat. Like, if they tell you no, they tell you no, but you at least have to try. So I did some talking to my parents, prayed about it, talked to my boss at the time, and she was like, you got to at least put your name in the hat. So I applied, and then got the interview. I thought that was them just being nice, and it wasn't. And then I came on campus interview, and then that Sunday I got a call, and our AD was calling me and offered me the position. And so I prayed about it for a little longer. I think that prayer is more just being, obviously I always pray about every decision I make, but I think a lot of that prayer was like fear-based prayer. Just wanting him to tell me no, don't take it. Like, wanted him to come back and like, no, you don't take it, stay there. But I just felt like that was the right thing to do, and it worked out pretty well. So that's a little bit how I got back here.
Wow, what a first year! What a first year head coach. Like say you were coach of the year in the conference. You guys were conference champs, NCAA Division II Elite Eight. Make sure I get that right, Elite Eight. What an awesome experience. So the question becomes: during that season, how did you keep yourself and your players focused during that COVID season? And all that uncertainty, we're gonna have a game here, the game gonna be canceled, all the testing that goes on. How did you keep the team focused?
Yeah, so I think the hardest time to keep them focused was from August to December, because we weren't playing games, and that was the longest preseason that anybody has ever had. Like, at least for women's basketball, our preseason is normally August to October 15th, and then by November we're playing games. So when October 15th rolled around and we're not prepping for a game, it's like, what are we doing? And so there was a lot of frustration in that first semester, a lot of frustration, a lot of boredom, a lot of anxiety. Like, when are we doing? Are we even going to get a season? Are we going to get to play? And so I think the biggest thing was trying to keep them focused on things that were outside of basketball. So like we really, like that semester, we were really honed in on our academics, like, and then try to, hone in on creating relationships and bonding, and just try to make it fun, because there were many days where, for all of us, myself included, you can ask the girls, where we were like, I don't want to go to practice. Like, I don't want to go to practice. I don't want to be here. And it was just hard, because like none of us were used to practicing that long. None of us were used to, and this is a new program, new system, new coach, new team. Like, so there was just so much uncomfortability in that first semester. obviously there was a lot of growth in that first semester. With uncomfortability always brings growth, but it was a really tough one. So once January hit, like they were focused. Like we were all just ready to go. We were all ready to play games. And fortunately and unfortunately, like we all dealt with the COVID quarantining early in October. So once January hit, we kind of knew, like, okay, at least for the entire month of January and part of February, like we won't lose a game because, or we won't have to sit a game because of us, So we were constantly practicing and preparing as if we were going to play every game, just because we know it wasn't going to be on our end. So if anything, it was going to be on the other end, and need to keep them locked in. Like normally in a normal year, you've got to keep them locked in to around that January, February. But we were all just so focused and ready to go by that time, because we were just ready to play games. So
yeah, that's like I said, that was a long preseason, for everybody,
yeah,
and just
yes,
keeping them focused, keeping it positive, and like I said, as an athlete, you just want to play.
yeah.
Once game time rolls around, everybody's ready to go. Everybody's ready to
Yeah.
go and excited. How was that experience for you and the team winning the conference and that whole NCAA experience, and then in the tournament you had some. I was following on the YouTube or watching the games. Boy, you had some dog fights in there. You had some battles
Yeah.
in there. At Glenville State is
Yeah.
always a battle.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's always a
Yeah.
battle. So talk about that, how that experience was for you as a first year coach. First time going through all as a head coach.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, so the conference tournament, that was so special. So I played in the first ever Mountain East Conference tournament championship game. I lost in that game. So for me, it was like, all right, I this can't happen twice. Like, I'm not going through that one again. And it was crazy. Like every time we had gotten to the conference tournament championship game. So when I was a sophomore, we went, and then my senior year, we went, and when I was a sophomore, it was the Weebiac, and we played Glenville and we lost. And my senior year, it was the first year that it was the MEC, and we played Glenville and we lost.
Wow.
And so leading up to that, my thing was like, we just got to get to the championship game. Like once we get to the championship game, like we'll be good. And when we got there and it was Glenville, I was like, surely, Lord, surely goodness and mercy, because like there's no way on my third one I'm gonna lose this game. There's no way. And when we got in that game and we were like losing bad, there was a multiple times between me and my assistant, like I'm down there, I'm like praying, like, God, come on now. Like, you can't let this. I look over to my right, my assistant's like, Jesus, Lord, help us. Like between the both of us, we were praying like nonstop that game. And in that fourth quarter, we kept stringing together some stops. We finally figured out, like, throw Erica Russell the ball every time down the floor, and just give her the ball. And so once we made a commitment to making sure the ball was in her hands, and we just kept getting stops, we were able to pull it out. And again, like that was a God thing. That was another God thing. And then the regional tournament, like, man, that another God thing. Like, just with COVID, as bad as COVID is, like as bad as COVID has been, it's also provided some benefits here and there. One of those being that we got a first round bye, because they were only taking 6 teams in the region, which normally they take 8. So with only taking 6, we get a first round bye. That's an automatic advancement to get closer to that Elite 8 spot. So, in that first game, we played Walsh, another game where we started off terrible and we were down 12 or something, and finally made our little run in the third and fourth. And then, Tiffin, I think the girls were just hungry. Like they were just ready for it. And I told them, I was like, listen, I promise you, as long as we play defense, the way that we know how to play defense, we were going to win this game. And they really bought into defending, and defend lockdown defending, and it was was crazy. I've never seen a regional championship game like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was an exciting times, roller coaster of emotions up and down. But it was awesome. It was like they made history, and that's something that can't be taken away from them. You know, the experience is something that can't be taken away from them. No matter no matter what comes, no matter who comes after us and makes it to the Elite Eight, or who comes after us and wins another conference championship. They were the first to do it, and that's super exciting for them. So
Great. Did you get a chance to do a little locker room dance in the locker room game?
yes, I did. I didn't necessarily do a dance, but I did a scream, a pretty large scream, and they made sure to get me with the water bottle. So obviously we don't do the champagne, but like they had those water bottles and they were ready. So they were waiting for it. So yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, this has been an awesome conversation. I love having young people and just encourage this next generation. You know what it looks like when you keep faith in God, you keep God first, and you just don't give up when you just hang in there. So for you, what's the word? Give me a word of encouragement that you would leave for some young ladies and particularly some young ladies who are watching this. You know, just encourage them in their basketball journey.
Yeah, honestly, I think the biggest thing like we talked about earlier is it like keep God first, like seek God first, seek after him, because he is faithful and it's hard, like that's a hard thing to say because a lot of times it's like you're not seeking God for what he can give you, but if you genuinely seek after him and after his will for your life, I promise like he's going to come through. Like I've never seen him fail me, like never, not a single time. Anytime I've anything I've prayed for, and I'm not saying that he's going to give us everything or give you everything that you want, but he for sure will come through with what you need and some. I think that, like I said, that's been the biggest difference maker in my life, was focusing on my relationship with God and focusing on what he wants for me and where he wants me to go and what he wants me to do, and living life for him and to give him glory and to give him honor. When I did that, like it literally just changed the trajectory of my life. So that is probably the best thing that I can give, the best advice I can give, is to really, really put God first in your life. But on another note, just don't don't be afraid of the grind, and because it's tough. Like I started as a volunteer, like you were telling me your daughter is volunteering. Like you're not, everybody expects like this microwave journey, this microwave success, overnight success, and it's not going to be that. Like you're going to have to take some bad jobs, or you're going to have to take some things that maybe you feel like are beneath you or below you, but it's all about how you operate in those positions, like and how you treat those positions, because God's not going to give you anything that you're not ready for, and he's not going to give you anything that he doesn't feel like you can handle. So you got to make sure that in everything that you do it to the glory of God, and that you do it with excellence, and do it for him, and not for people, not for man. Because if you do it for people, for man, you're not going to do it well. But if you do it to bring him glory, and you do it because you want him to be pleased with you, then your work will be good, and you'll be rewarded for that. So
that's powerful. Boy, you sound like a young preacher there. The word there, she was sharing out, the Lord just dropped in my spirit. You're faithful with few things, he'll make you over many. You're faithful with few things. You were faithful in that volunteering and that commitment that you made. And now look at what God has done. So I'm just excited for you and what the future holds for you. Only just beginning. So I want to thank you, Coach Kelly, for this.
No, thank you.
It's a rich interview and this knowledge. And I want to encourage others to continue to follow me on this Uncommon Athletes YouTube channel, subscribe, like, and all those good things. But Coach, I'm looking forward to that championship. Looking forward to you cutting down the net soon, there in Charleston.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for your time. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
All right.